Fairfield Christian Church welcomes Paul Wilbur in concert.
Worthy is the Lamb that was slain for us, Son of God.
Paul Wilbur and Band in concert, Saturday evening, May 4th at 7 at the Fairfield Christian Church in Lancaster. Don't miss this exciting night of worship with Paul Wilbur and the Messiah Company dancers. This is a love offering event. Doors open at 6:30. More details at 740-654-0099 or fairfieldchristian.org.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Road to Recovery here on the Lancaster School Network in 90.9 FM. It's great to have you with us here for another program that offers hope and help and healing and wholeness to those who are struggling with addiction, or maybe a family member or friend or coworker, a neighbor who has an addiction issue. We encourage you to give the Recovery Center a call, 740-687-4500, or stop by 201 South Columbus Street in downtown Lancaster, and there will be somebody there to help you. Best to call first to make sure that the schedule will allow, 687-4500 or 201 South Columbus Street. I'm Steve Rao, and we're blessed to have as a co-host for this program the Executive Director of the Recovery Center, Tricia Saunders. Welcome back to Road to Recovery.
Thank you, Steve. It's great to be here. It's been a fun day already. We're just getting started.
Just getting started. I got to tell you, something really cool happened to me today. I had the privilege of working with several different addicts, and I got a text, and it was a friend who's been struggling and working through their addiction, and they said, could I call you? I said, sure. They called me and said, I just wanted to let you know that today I've hit my 1-year anniversary of being sober.
That is fantastic. What a great day.
It was. It's just, whatever happens today will not be trumped by that. It's the reason why we have the Road to Recovery show. We believe there's help and hope and wholeness and healing. And it seems like in the midst of an addiction that you can't make it to the next day or maybe even the next hour.
Right.
But it is possible to be there. And today was just another reminder it can happen. This individual has made it an entire year, 365 days clean and sober, and it's something to be celebrated.
It is. That's so beautiful. Very exciting.
It really is. We have another exciting guest with us today, and would you introduce our guest today?
I sure will. This guest is somebody who I have heard so much about, kind of famous around Lancaster.
She is.
Her name is Charlie, so I probably don't even need to say anymore, but it's Charlie Dressback, and she works at Fairfield Medical Center. Welcome. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
What is your official title there at Fairfield Medical?
I am actually the Women and Children's Health Case Manager at Fairfield Medical Center, which basically means that I do a combination of jobs. I do justification of patient stays at the hospital for newborns, pediatric cases, pregnant moms, in some phase of the pregnancy, post-delivery, as well as the GYN client. And then I help set up the discharge plans, community resource coordinator, that type of thing.
Sounds like you must work like 100 hours a week.
Sometimes 120.
You spend a lot of time on the second floor at the Fairfield Medical Center.
Yes, my office is actually on the second floor. That's my home base.
Yeah,
Yep.
very good. How did you get started in this kind of line of work, women and children's health?
I just happened to be at the right place at the right time because actually my career spawns back to Mount Carmel West, which is where I started. I graduated from and then started my career at Mount Carmel West, worked there for about 12 years, ended up as the director of their quality assurance program, and then decided that with children it was time to move local again. Came back down to Lancaster and worked with visiting nurses and hospice for another 10 or 12 years. And then the hospital asked, we had merged with them and asked if I'd come over and help them with discharge planning since that had been one of my fortes at Mount Carmel. So I went over there and they needed someone on the maternity unit to be a discharge planner, and I said, sure, why not? I loved OB when I was a student, so let's do it. But it was a real trade-off because I went from taking care of the elderly end of the spectrum when PROM meant passive range of motion for fractured hips,
Right.
to PROM for moms, pregnant moms, meaning premature rupture of membranes. And that really was kind of a mind shift for me to start thinking at the other end of this age spectrum. So
Sounds like you were where you were meant to be at the right time.
I think that it has been very enjoyable, and we've seen lots of changes. over the period of years.
Well, it's number of years that you have in, they must have started you at like 5 years old.
Close.
Yeah.
That sounds really nice. Flattery will get you everywhere.
Excellent. I'm looking to get places. This show, Road to Recovery, is about offering hope and help and wholeness and healing for those going through addiction. Now, why would we be talking to you if you're working with moms, you're working with babies? I mean, babies aren't addicted, are they?
Yes. Yes, and unfortunately, what we've seen over a period of time, and I've actually been the case manager for maternity for well over 16 years. So over that period of time, we have seen initially a very gradual increase in the use of drugs, primarily starting out as marijuana. Now, today, in the last 5 to 7 years, we have just seen a balloon effect of opiates, heroin, cocaine, crystal meth in the area. And consequently, when moms use, the thing that we try to get our moms to understand is that anything, when you're pregnant, anything that you take into your body, the baby takes into. So we try to do some visualization with our moms that come in, especially those that we find that are doing drugs. We try to sit down with them and get them to understand, why does your doctor have you take a pill? Why does he have you take vitamins? Why does he have you drink milk? Why does he have you eat a nutritious meal? Well, because my baby takes it. Well, how does your baby take it? Well, my baby just absorbs it from me. And we say, okay, now close your eyes and picture yourself lighting up a marijuana. Picture yourself shooting up heroin. And then they have this stunned look on their face of realization that it never dawned on them that taking the other substances, the baby was taking them as well. So
Denial can be a powerful thing.
it can be a very powerful thing.
Are there a lot of situations where you don't even know ahead of time that the mother has been using drugs?
Yes, yeah. Initially, we were just screening patients when they would come in. We would do drug screens if they, what we called, tripped a red flag. So they were no prenatal care, no local prenatal care, somebody that just kind of was passing through. But it ended up being statistically so significant that we ended up screening everybody that comes to the OB unit. And I think one of the things that we've learned and that I am always trying to educate the physicians and the nursing staff on, and it has been a real turnaround for them, is you cannot identify an addict by looking at them.
That's true.
You cannot. It does not matter. It has nothing to do with the culture. It has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with socioeconomic class. And that is a real dichotomy compared to what it used to be years and years and years ago. So it's very important that we don't presume someone is not addicted or is not using because they happen to be a professor or a teacher or a nurse or a doctor or an attorney. We're all human.
Yeah. I think it's really important, too, to think about as teenagers, that they think that their behaviors now may not impact their life later, but really, do you believe that there could be an impact down the road if somebody has a baby, even years after they have used certain types of drugs?
Oh, absolutely. There's a long-term social, psychological, emotional, financial impacts, both for the parents of these children and for the children. And we do offer a class at Fairfield, and I am one of the teachers. And we offer it every other month, and it's a free class. It's 3 hours in length, and it's caring for the substance exposed infant or child. And we actually start out with a demographic. So we talk a little bit about the drug issue in the Fairfield County area. Always quick to emphasize that Fairfield County is not alone.
Right.
We are not the thorn in the rose bush.
That's correct.
There is every other county is dealing with the same issue. We have chosen to address the issue, and that's what I like to tell people. And we've been pretty creative at it, I think. But we end up seeing a lot of children that are born addicted to moms who have been using. Many times are ended up transferred to one of the Columbus hospitals to further their withdrawal treatment because it is extensive enough that it's something that we locally cannot handle here. So in essence, then, they're separated from the family unit, they're separated from the parents, they're separated from grandparents, aunts, uncles, people who care. They are sent to a larger hospital in Columbus where they can deal with the withdrawal, and then starts the social, environmental, and cultural changes. Children's Services becomes involved. The legal system becomes involved. They end up in the court system, and that follows them for the rest of their life.
I know it's hard to even talk about, but can you share a little bit about what it might be like for that infant?
Infants can go through all of various types of withdrawal, but just some of the classic things that we tell moms, and we'll tell our audiences when we're talking to them, is one of the keynote things is babies, when they go through withdrawal, they will have what we call a high-pitched scream. And it is, once you hear that cry or scream, it is unlike any that you've ever heard, and you'll never forget it. My office is probably 4 doors down from the nursery, and usually when we have babies that are going through withdrawal, we move them to the back of our nursery so that it's a subdued, quiet lighting area, so they don't get a tremendous amount of stimulus. And what happens is, even with 2 sets of doors shut, plus my door shut, we can hear those babies clear into our office. So, and I tell moms that's because they're in pain. They're feeling the same thing you feel. They have no way to express it. They will have jitters, they will have tremors, they will be just so terribly fussy and inconsolable. It's like anything that you do is not enough. It doesn't help to console them. They have problems eating. They either don't eat enough, they eat too much, followed by what we call true emesis. It isn't just an occasional spit up. It is true emesis, where it can actually projectile, a ways away. They end up with issues with the GI system as far as the bowels. They end up with skin breakdown. They end up with skin excoriation. They'll have seizures. They end up with what we call tachypnea, which is really a rapid respiratory rate. Babies normally breathe a normal range 40 to 60 times a minute. We have actually seen babies who are going through withdrawal breathe up to 120 times a minute. So consequently, when they do that, we tell you that they poop out. Their little system simply cannot sustain a breathing rate that fast, that hard for a long period of time. They develop retractions, and we call that sucking air, where if you look at people that are having trouble breathing, they'll have suck in around their ribs, around their neck, around their collarbones. So it shows you that they're labored breathing. They end up going on a ventilator. They end up going on oxygen. They end up having IVs. They end up having feeding tubes put in. So they require a lot of care.
It is hard for a newborn to kind of get life started in general.
Right.
They're so small and frail and susceptible to everything. And then when you add these elements, you could see where their survival rate could be significantly reduced as those traumatic things are happening to their body. And it's also very expensive to get them to full health if they actually make it to full health. It can be upwards of $1 million to detox one baby. Is that true?
Absolutely. And a lot depends on what the mom has used, the frequency of her use, the intensity of her use, and when she last used and how much she last used prior to birth. And one of the things that we try to tell people when we do our classes is that the research is relatively new in terms of its effect on the neonate, only because we've not had the problem with pregnant women using drugs. We've had the drug use problem for a long time. But the fact that it has moved into the pregnant part of our society is relatively new in terms of research. Now, 8 or 10 years doesn't seem new, but it is in terms of research. But some of the things that we're seeing is these little ones, they do have to usually go up the road if they're going through significant withdrawal. We will assess them. They go up the road and many times are placed on morphine drips in order to withdraw them. So what we do is we actually substitute one narcotic for another and taper them down, morphine, methadone, whatever. And then they end up with some potential long-term issues for developmental delays, learning disabilities. Sometimes we say they don't play well in the sandbox of life with others. You'll put Tommy and Susie in a sandbox together, and all of a sudden Susie just, beats Tommy up with the pail and then goes back and plays with him again in 3 seconds, And it's simply because their little personalities and parts of the brain have been impacted. And I like to tell people, if drugs impact the adult brain like we know they do.
Right.
Imagine what they're doing to the baby's brain, who is in the formative stages of development, while the mom is using drugs. So we see a lot of long-term effects. One of the things that some of the research that we've seen suggests that babies that are born to parents who are using drugs, especially the mothers, have a greater risk of becoming drug users and smokers as they reach adolescent age. And interestingly enough, when I do the drug histories and meet with these moms, a lot of these young gals, when you talk to them about their family history, you will find that their parents were drug users.
Yeah, I think that we still have a lot to learn about that as well. We know that when somebody's addicted, they're always addicted. They can be in recovery, but they're always addicted. So then as they grow up and for any reason use any type of substance, I would think that the addiction factor would be very, very strong.
Right. And I think it's important to understand, too, that with all of the social issues that drug use creates, we don't know where the babies and children's problems start as a result of drug use and where they start as a result of environmental and social factors. They have trust issues, but they don't get the opportunity to be with a family that they can bond with. They're being removed, they're being placed back in, they're being removed, they're being placed back in.
Yeah.
Mommy and daddy aren't always there. So it affects their ability to relate and develop trust. And develop their personality.
Yeah, it is a very complex issue. We got about 30 seconds left. We want to offer hope and help and wholeness and healing. There is hope for a mother and a baby if it's caught at the right time. What hope can you offer those who are struggling with addiction?
I think that the thing that I would like to emphasize the most is that they need to be honest. Tell your physician, tell your practitioner, tell a nurse, call someone at the hospital. You can call us in case management. We do a lot of community case management for maternity. Let us know you're having problems. Call the recovery center, tell them you're pregnant, tell them you need help. If you let somebody know that you're having problems, we will get you the help. There is help out there to be obtained, but we can't do it if we don't know. You've got to be honest. You've got to want the help.
Yes, and they are a priority population for
Yes.
us, meaning we will get them in immediately.
Right.
So, and I think that intervention and prevention are really key here as well. And the earlier,
Yes.
the better.
Outstanding work, great information, great passion on your part to really care for the women and children that come to the Fairfield Medical Center and are struggling. You really have set the bar high. You really do make a difference in the lives of individuals and families and young children, newborns, and we encourage you to keep up the good work.
Thank you. We just to end on a positive note, we can be successful. Probably once a year, we'll have one or two moms come back and say, "Do you remember me? I was the one who used heroin. I've been clean for a year. I've got my baby back, and we are just doing wonderful." And that makes it all worth it.
No question. It's because of people like Charlie Dressback, the Women and Children's Case Manager at Fairfield Medical Center, that makes that happen. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
So much.
Tricia Saunders, it's great to have somebody like Charlie Dressback
is.
in your corner, isn't it?
It is. We're lucky to have her in our community and doing all the good work she's doing.
Thanks.
No question. Thank you for joining us for Road to Recovery. Again, you can call the Recovery Center, 740-687-4500, and get help and hope and wholeness and healing if you're struggling or a family member or friend struggling with addiction. Join us next week at this exact same time as we'll continue to journey down this road to recovery.
This log. Yeah. Whoa! I like the big black ones. I like the brown wiggly ones.
I like the green crunchy ones myself.
Whoa.
Get out and explore nature. There's surprises everywhere. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Anyone up for dessert?